All right, so you've applied for every high paying job out there and all you've gotten is radio silence. What do you do now? Today, we're going to break down job hunting tactics to effectively show your value in the workplace, interview tips, and how to negotiate your salary. My name is Sean. I'm a mental health coach and I help clients get results like these. Helped me realize I'm a worthy candidate and am very much qualified for the positions I'm trying for in my job search. Since starting coaching, I've found a job I'm much happier in, joined a band, started performing gigs, I'm going to be releasing an EP soon, and feel less stressed overall. So, welcome back to Coins to Comfort, the series where I walk you through how to build a better relationship with your money. And this is not just, ideas. These are things that I walk my 40 plus clients through, and it helps them build a better relationship with their money. This is part 2 in the Coins to Comfort series, and it is a stepwise process. So if you have not yet watched part 1, be sure to check it out. It'll pop up in either of these corners or down in the description, depending on where you're watching or listening to this. When I work with clients on their mental health, one of the things that we really focus on is this idea of inherent value, the idea that you don't have to prove anything in order to be good enough. Because when you try to prove things in order to be good enough, it is just an infinite treadmill that leads to suffering. But when it comes to the world of business, your value is determined by your utility, what it is that you can provide. So if you are applying to a bunch of jobs and you are not getting any results, it means one of two things. Either you are not effectively showing that utility, or you don't have enough utility to show yet. A while ago, I read this book called How to Get Everything You Can Out of All You've Got. And it's a book on sales. And one of the things that he talks about in that book is that everybody is in sales, whether they know it or not. Whether you are actually working a sales position or you are just doing something like job hunting. And I think it's a really brilliant point because as I have studied job hunting more and more and helped more and more clients get jobs, I have started to realize that job hunting grafts onto the sales process one for one. It's exactly the same. And a lot of people have this conception of sales that it's like dirty and sleazy. And where that conception comes from is old car salesmen that used to sell lemons, cars that were trash, in order to try to keep up with the demand because cars were so popular that they couldn't produce them fast enough. Nowadays, with how informed we all are as consumers, because we have, infinite information at our fingertips, sales can't be that anymore because word will get around too quick. And so instead, how I view sales nowadays is that it is trying to genuinely provide somebody some kind of value, help somebody in some way. And the reason that I bring this up is because for so many of my clients, job hunting is so incredibly disempowering. They just feel like, they're just getting rejected constantly and they have to go to these interviews where they're like begging for a job. And by framing it as I'm actually seeking to help someone else, I'm seeking to provide value to whoever it is that I'm, trying to work for, it really flips the script and makes it much more empowering. Because now, if they don't want your help, that's on them. But you have something valuable to provide to the world, whatever job it is that you're going to work for. Even something as, entry level as working at McDonald's or working at a grocery store, those are really important jobs. I mean, if COVID taught us nothing else, it is thank God for grocery store workers. Okay, so now that we've established that initial idea, let's assume that you have the value to offer. It's just that you're not effectively showing it. And if this is the case, where that starts is with your resume. So the resume in sales is sort of the equivalent of outreach, right? You're like sending emails to people asking if they, want to buy your thing, or you're going door to door and asking if they want to buy your thing, whatever it is. And the resume is the equivalent of that. So we're going to start by going over just some basic resume improvement tips that I see a lot with people that I work with. And it's crazy. There was one example just recently where all that we did was we flipped the order of this person's resume, and immediately the next week he was getting ready for an interview. It was incredible. And real quick, before we get into some of the tips to improve your resume, feel free to shoot me an email. I'll leave my email down in the description. feel free to shoot me an email and I will give you a free resume review that is personalized to you. So the first thing that I often help clients with when it comes to improving their resume is formatting. The average HR manager looks at a resume for about 10 seconds. And so it is essential that you help guide their eyes to where they should look. So bolding the work experience and the education sections, and then making sure to have bullet points rather than paragraphs, because eyes get lost in a sea of paragraphs, whereas bullet points, they can very quickly skim. And please keep your resume to one page. Unless you have so much incredible, groundbreaking experience that you need multiple pages, again, because they only look at your resume for 10 seconds, no one's looking at that second page. So just keep it to one page. If you have a lot of work experience, you can just put recent work experience and then just list the most relevant experience that you've had recently. The next thing that I help clients with is to quantify their achievements. You can replace vague adjectives with measurable data. So instead of saying something like effectively worked tables, instead you can say managed X tables per shift with an average tip of X%. One of the other advantages of using data like this, other than the fact that it is quantifiable, so a company can see exactly what you did. You don't have to tell them that you were effective because they can see that you were effective by how many tables that you managed and what percentage tip you had. But on top of that, there are also numbers on the page, literal numbers like 50. And the reason that's important is because numbers stand out in a sea of words. And so the eye can quickly dart to them and pick up that piece of information, which again is great because HR only looks at resumes for 10 seconds. The third thing is that we live in the world of AI. And so nowadays, a lot of our resumes get filtered through bots and HR managers never even see it. And one of the ways that you can help to avoid that is by using executive language. So instead of using words like helped or assisted, you can use words like managed, owned, created, etc. Things that make you look like you have ownership over your work. Oftentimes, AI engines are trained on this sort of thing. And even when it does get to HR being able to see that you are somebody that takes ownership over your work looks good on your resume. And finally, the last thing is an objective statement or a summary. One of my clients that I talked to once said that it's sort of like a one-sentence cover letter. And I think that that's a beautiful, perfect description. And the reason that the summary is so important is for the same reason I've been citing over and over and over again. You have mere seconds to get your message across. In sales, we would call this the hook. And so if there's something up at the top that is just one sentence that very clearly shows what you're about, it can get the HR manager to actually look at more of your resume. Now, once you've fixed up your resume, okay, so pause the video, go fix up your resume. When you come back and you continue watching this video, now we have to actually apply for jobs. And there are two ways that I help clients apply for jobs. So it's two different methods. The first method I call the machine gun method, which is that you're not going to tailor your resume at all. You're not going to try to, do research on the perfect job. All you're going to do is you're going to go to a job hunting site like Indeed or LinkedIn, and you are going to use their auto apply button where it basically, you upload your resume to Indeed and it uses that information to automatically fill out applications for you for jobs that have that feature available. So you can just click. And I have seen clients go from 1 application a day, 2 applications a day, to 10, 20 applications a day, because it's so easy. You can apply for so many jobs this way. And when you do this, it's just a numbers game. You are basically just playing the system until you start to get offers. And when you start to get offers, one of the great things about the machine gun method is that you can actually vie offers against one another. So if one place makes you an offer, you can say, well, this place made me this offer. So I would need at least that. I would love to work for you, but I would need at least this much in order to take that job, which we'll get more into when we get into the negotiation stuff. The second method of applying for jobs I call the backdoor method, which is essentially that you are not going to try to brute force your way in through the front door. You are going to find a sneaky way in the back. And essentially this comes down to networking. And you may not think that you have a network, but everyone has way more of a network than they think that they do. Whether you go on social media and look at all of the people that are following you or that you are following, or you go to your phone contacts and you look through all of your phone contacts. All of those people are connections, people in your network. And so I would encourage you to start reaching out and connecting with people, even if you don't think it will lead anywhere. Oftentimes you'll be surprised if you just start connecting with people, not even with any intention. You can just say, hey, like, do you want to, sit down and have a chat? Not only do you get to be more social, spend more time with people, which is good for your mental health, but then also you may, during that conversation, bring up that you're looking for jobs, and they may unexpectedly say, hey, the place that I'm working at is currently hiring. And then once you find an in, you want to do your research. You want to sort of tailor your resume and find out a lot about the company, all that sort of stuff. Because the backdoor method is usually the method that people use when they are looking for more of a career. They find a specific place that they want to focus on and find their way into it. Now, there is another possibility, which is that it may be that you actually just don't have the skills yet and you need to build up some skills. And if that is the case, what I will say is that the best investment that you can make is in yourself. And I don't just mean, cheesy, feel-good feelings wise, although that is true too. I mean that if you look at the numbers, if you invest in something like the S&P 500, which is one of the best investments that you can make, you will probably get about an 8% return on your money over the course of the year. And that doesn't include inflation, so it's actually a little bit less than that. But if you invest in yourself, when I work with clients and I help them to invest in themselves and their businesses and things like that, I've seen clients get 200, 300% returns. There is no other investment that you can make without huge amounts of risk, just plain out gambling, that will yield those kind of returns. And so if you don't have the skills yet, it may be worth investing in some kind of certification, like a certification to become an electrician, for instance, and you can double your earning potential just by doing that. The one thing about this that I want to warn against is that sometimes people will sort of get stuck in the learning phase. And one thing that I've learned both personally and from working with other people is that the world really rewards a bias towards action. So it is much better to be directionally correct with what you are doing than to try to get things perfect all at once. Because by doing so, you can iterate and course correct as you go. You get way more practice and experience and knowledge that way than if you try to learn everything up front and then fall on your face because you're still brand new to whatever it is that you're doing. Okay, so you've fixed up your resume, you've gotten some certifications, you're all ready to go, and you get your first interview. Let's break down interviews. I'm going to break it down very, very simply. A lot of interview prep suggests that you make sure you study all of the questions and that you sit up straight and that you smile when you talk. And I think that all of that is crap. I think that it actually makes people perform worse at interviews. And I think that the reason why is because people can read fakeness real quick. We are real good as human beings at picking up on fakeness. And so when you do all that stuff, it just gives icky vibes. It shows that you're not authentic. And so instead, what I encourage people to do, and don't worry, I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh no, he's going to tell me, just be yourself. Yeah, easier said than done, coach. No, I'm not going to say that. What I'm going to say is that the way that you be yourself is to flip the tables on the interview. So rather than thinking about the interview as I am trying to get this job and I'm trying to perform and dance to do everything I can to get this job, instead you're going to think about it like, oh, I am actually interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing me. Because this is a job. This is where you're going to be spending a third of your day, 5 days out of the week, at least. And so you want to make sure that it's a good job for you. And there's a very easy, practical, sort of outside-in method to flip the interview on its head, which is just to ask questions. And it's not like you have to fake questions. Just think about what is important to you about a job. What would make you happy at a job? And ask questions that suss out if the company does those things. So for some people, they don't care about the culture. They don't want a family environment. They just want to be paid and compensated well. And so if that's the case for you, then you might want to ask questions about compensation. Whereas there are other people that really care about the culture and really care about the environment. And the money is actually less important to them. They just want a place that, they get along with other people and feel at home. And if that's the case, you might want to ask questions about the culture and get hard data. Don't let them middle management talk you, where they say, oh yeah, those values are really important to us and we really prioritize those things. No, 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 no. Just like you wouldn't put that on your resume, don't let them say that to you. Get hard examples of, okay, great, I'm glad that you prioritize that stuff. Can you give me some examples of how you prioritize that stuff? What does that look like at your company? Hold their feet to the fire. And if they keep wiggling out of it and not answering, it's not the job for you. And finally, we arrive at the grand moment where you get your offer. And the most important part about getting your offer is that you negotiate your salary. I'm going to give you the super secret method to negotiating your salary. You ready? Ask. 85% of people that negotiate their salary get some part of what they negotiate for. A lot of people that I work with feel worried about, being perceived as greedy or whatever it is, not getting the job offer. I will tell you that in all of my time working with clients, I have never heard of a job offer being rescinded because the person tried to negotiate. Now, I have heard of people saying, sorry, this isn't enough pay for me, I'm going to look elsewhere. That's absolutely happened. But interviewing for companies is a pain in the ass. If they are giving you a job offer, they don't want to go through the work of finding a new candidate. And so even if they can't afford to offer you or won't afford to offer you what it is that you're asking for, the worst that they'll do is say, sorry, we can't offer that to you. And then it's up to you whether you want to take the job at the rate that they offered or not. And there's a very simple way to ask, which is, I did some research. People in this kind of job usually make around X, and so I would like to ask for X. I hope this is helpful for you. I hope it helps you get a job just like it's helped numerous of my clients get jobs. In the next part of this series, we're going to be covering best practices once you have good financial stability, what to do with that financial stability once you're there. And if you want these resources that I make to be more specific and tailored to you, there is a link down in the description that you can click where you can let me know exactly what you would like to see. If you want to do a quick check-in on your mental health, including how your job or your job hunting is playing into that, there's a free 2-minute quiz where you can just get some quick insights into areas that you might want to focus on. I'll leave the link down in the description. And if you're watching this and thinking to yourself, yeah, this is great for everybody else, but for me, I'm just lazy. I can never find consistency in my life. I have to work 10 times harder than everybody else and I get the same or worse results, then you may really resonate a lot with this video. And I got a lot of comments on this video. It'll be here or it'll show up in the description depending on where you're watching this. I got a lot of comments on this video that it really helped to sort of shift their mindset a bit. Thanks for watching and I'll see you later. Bye!